Alright guys, so we've made it all the way to module 4. In this module, we're really going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of this course and talking about SQL, how it's built, and what the advantages are. So let's do some data magic. So first of all, here's a brief overview of SQL as a query language. And so it stands for Structured Query Language, and it's been around for a long time, since about the 70s. And since then, and up to present day, it's been the way to interact with and manipulate data from relational databases. And so all relational databases are just databases made up of tables, much like the one that you see right here with album and track in it. And each of these tables is related to each other through what are called foreign key relationships. So if we look right here, album has its own ID, its unique identifier, and think of the IDs essentially just as a social security number for each instance of an album. So if an album is called, I don't know, let's say for example an album by Post Malone called Hollywood's Bleeding, that might have an album ID of 123. And that album ID would be connected to each track in that album. And so each of these tracks would have its own track ID with its name. Let's say, for example, the name of this track is called Circles or something like that. The track Circles might have an ID of ABC or something, which is not going to be in the album. That is, that field won't be in the album. And so what would happen is once we retrieve the album and then we link these two tables together, it would retrieve not only the album title, but also each respective track title with it. So that's kind of how each of those work. We'll get more into what relational databases are fundamentally as we do SQL joins, which will come later on down the road. And so SQL comes in a variety of different flavors and forms. It's pretty much, they look very, very similar. The syntax is pretty much the same across the board with just a few minor differences here. Some of the most popular DBMSs or database management service systems are Microsoft SQL Server, SQLite, MySQL, MariaDB, and Postgres. And so all of these Metabase has a way to interact with. And I will have an example on how to connect with MySQL later on. That's kind of a bonus because we're not really going to be messing with these. The reason that we're not messing with the actual SQL databases in this course is because BigQuery is a little bit more easy to work with as far as connecting goes and actually creating the data inside of them. You also don't have to download anything onto your machine in order for BigQuery to run. You just access it straight from the browser. And so finally, I just wanted to introduce the most basic of all SQL commands, the select. So this is the only truly required command when it comes to writing your SQL statement. There's going to be eventually a variety of group by and order by and from and in between and all these kinds of different SQL commands that we'll write. But for now, this is the only one that we'll use. And like I said, this is the only one that's actually required. This is going to specify what data we want to return, which can be anything from math calculations to just plain old strings to columns in a database, which is the most common one. And a table is also not required to make this run, which we'll see in the next video. And so kind of like I had promised to you guys, the way that it's going to work is I will introduce the topic like I just did, and then we'll do some practice. And we'll do that with the next, I guess, mini module where we talk about from statements, and then the one after that, and the one after that, and one after that, and that's how it's going to go. So I'll see you guys in the next video.